It's the week after E3 where all the developers try and sneak in weird little news tips without anyone seeing. And so I'm Jory. With me today we've got
Kainoa, hello.
And this is the Hack and Chat podcast.
Woo! We need an opening, like a song.
Oh, that'd be really cool. Like
we
Cox
should put
and
together
Crendor.
a song. Yes.
Oh, yeah, I'll work on it. So, we stopped last podcast without talking about the Nintendo podcast or the E3 conference.
Yeah, we hadn't talked about Nintendo or Sony because we actually recorded the day or the morning of those two, and they had not happened yet.
And I know you were super not excited for it, and I know that you're not excited to talk about it now, and I have to say, I was disappointed.
By Nintendo?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't expect there to be anything that I would be interested in, and my expectations were fully met.
There were a couple of things that I was expecting, things they'd already announced before, and we were going to see a little more of them, but the only thing that I was actually interested in, that when they actually showed off the conference, was Metroid, the new 3DS game. Which is not something they had really announced much before, or we even knew about. Like, I was super excited for Mario coming in, and that even ended up winning a lot of Best of Shows, and seeing it in motion, I was horribly disappointed.
I was convinced for the entire Odyssey trailer, because I haven't seen anything about Odyssey yet.
Mm-hmm.
I was convinced it was a joke. Because, like, to me, having not seen any content about that game before, I was like, okay, Mario in a sombrero is not a game. And like, there's a part where he, like, throws the hat onto, like, a normal human guy, and I was like, there's no way that's in the game. That's, like, Sonic the Hedgehog levels of, like, just, like, terrible, terrible design choices.
I thought it was an interesting thing, and I trust Nintendo to make that polished enough.
I don't, though, because I've seen it done bad so many times. Just the idea of, like, there's a cartoon character, and then we're gonna put it next to an obviously sort of realistic human character.
Have you seen the first trailer for Mario Odyssey?
I haven't seen anything. I saw what was at the E3 conference, that was it.
The first trailer shows off what they call Super Donk City, or New Donk City. It's based on Donkey Kong.
Oh, yeah.
And also New York. And they show him next to a lot of people. It's less jarring than you think it might be.
Okay. I mean, I'm willing to see what happens. I'm just not interested.
Yeah. I was actually super disappointed. They showed off a ton of gameplay for it.
They did. They actually showed off a fair amount.
And they kept going, they kept streaming afterwards for a few hours of playing it.
I didn't stick around for that because
you have no interest at
all.
And
it's long. It's a long thing. And normally at E3 when they transition to that, like, post-conference, like, stuff, it's normally, like, a 4-hour marketing pitch from the devs.
Yeah.
And they'll, like, sit down with IGN and explain, like, their 3 talking points of, like, our game is the best game. It will revolutionize gaming. Please buy it. Then they do that 4 times with 4 other news sites, and then they move on to the next game.
I thought it was a little better this year. Not necessarily for Mario, but for a lot of games, it was just them playing the game for a couple hours. And I think they got a lot of cues from streaming, where they just wanted people to play the game, and maybe the developers to say 1 or 2 little things, but I didn't feel like it was just, hey, stick in this area, hey, do this.
Yeah, it wasn't, and a lot of people were just straight up like, we're not doing any of that. Like, Bethesda.
Bethesda had nothing to show.
I think Microsoft I don't think Microsoft did any of that either. I think right after their show, they were just like, thanks for watching the stream.
The hard part with Microsoft is it was a ton of third-party titles.
Yeah, and it's hard to show that stuff off. But that's at least 2 major companies that made the decision not to do that, like, post-conference sales pitch this year, and I felt I enjoyed it more.
Well, E3 changed a lot this year because it was a free to go to convention. It was open to the public. I'm not. I think they had a free thing last year that was a trial run, but it might have cost. But it was open to the public, so it wasn't just news people. And so they actually tried to do a convention where I think it was a lot more showing off the games to the people. Yeah.
I wonder if E3 is going to stop being as major of a convention as a result. Or maybe it already has, and that's why they have to open it up like that.
From what I understood, they wanted to do it because there was a time where E3 was open to the public, and then it slowly got more and more for the news sites.
Mm-hmm.
And the creators of the conference were actually super disappointed because there wasn't that opening anymore in their convention. I mean, there were still packs and things, but they wanted to have it under their own umbrella. Which I thought was good for them.
Yeah.
We also didn't see the Sony conference.
Yeah, we hadn't seen the Sony conference when we did our last podcast, but now we have. And there are definitely some cool things in there. I want Monster Hunter on PC. I really do. It's not going to happen.
No.
I think it's a PS... I think this one might be a PlayStation exclusive.
They keep going back and forth on that. It's like half Nintendo, half PlayStation.
Yeah, I think it started on PlayStation. Because I specifically remember the first one I wanted to play was on PSP, but I wasn't going to buy a PSP for one game.
Right.
Because there's no other games on PSP, but that was like forever ago too, back when PSP was like a valid console. But then they went to 3DS, and then they were on Wii U, and now they're back on PlayStation consoles, and it looks better for it.
Of course.
Honestly, I got this heavy sense that they had played Tokiden, and they were like, we need to make Tokiden. Because, for those that aren't aware, Tokiden is a kind of Monster Hunter style game that's got a lot of similar mechanics. But the one that really stuck out to me was in the trailer for this new Monster Hunter, they show him using a grappling hook.
Oh.
Which mechanically looked exactly the same as the, like, demon hand you get in Tokiden, and I was like, oh, okay. And then there was climbing around on the monsters, which I'm pretty sure I know wasn't in the Monster Hunter I played on 3DS. I don't know if they added that to Monster Hunter Tri or something. But I think that they looked at Tokiden and were like, this did it a lot better, which I would agree with. Tokiden, I think, had a lot of innovations to that format that I really enjoyed. But of course, Monster Hunter, I think, it's the more mainstream game, and it has more money behind it, and I want to see what they can do utilizing some of those mechanics.
It's kind of interesting that that's become such a mainstream game. Like, not everyone plays it, obviously.
No.
But it's kind of hard to get into. I've only played a couple of hours myself, and it's really difficult. Peanut Butter Gamer... No, not Peanut Butter Gamer. Pro Jerry did a tutorial, a multi-part guide on it, and I had to follow that, like, to the T to even get through the beginning of that game.
When I started looking into, like, playing it on, like, the level where you, like, start taking it seriously, I gave up immediately because, at least in the 3DS version, there's this mechanic where you can get, like, I kind of forget now, I think they're called trinkets. They're basically, like, these little boosts you can get to your stuff, but they're based on a random seed that is decided when you turn on or when you start the game.
Oh no.
Based on your time.
Yeah.
So I was looking into it, and they're like, here's a calculator, input all of this data about your game and about your 3DS, and then wait for this exact, will, like, give you a time, and you have to open the game at that time to get the correct seed for your trinkets for your class. And I was like, fuck that shit.
I love the idea of that just because it does enforce a randomness. But if I've played this game.
Second it's broken, the second the randomness is broken and people game it, it's terrible.
It doesn't even matter. I feel like those trinkets and things are, like, necessary to play the game.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to deal with randomness to get necessary things. Or at least things that make the game that much more accessible.
Yeah, and, well, for competitive play, because people obviously take it to a competitive place. It's not against people, but it's like if you want to, like, go online and basically do, like, WoW raids are basically what they are with people. People are like, well, what's your specs? Like, how have you spec'd out your class? What are your And so if you don't do that, you can literally just be screwed. And it means also that I'm pretty sure it's tied to the whole game, not a save file, which would mean that you could only play one class because you optimize the trinkets based on class.
Weird.
Yeah, that would suck. I don't know that that's the case. But either way, Tokiden 2, I highly recommend until this new Monster Hunter comes out because it's way less grindy. And I found that there's a lot more variety earlier on, which kind of peters out a little quicker than it does in Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is very good about like staggering out its content so that for your entire experience you're constantly coming across new stuff, just not as often as you do in Tokiden, where like your first 30 hours there's new stuff, and then after that you're just fighting, you know, the red skeleton and then the blue skeleton
over and over.
Yeah, different colors.
So going back to Nintendo for a little.
Yep.
We saw a lot of Mario and Rabbids. We saw it in the Activision, I believe, show.
Pretty sure.
And we also saw it in the Nintendo show. And they seemed dead set on it. There was also an adorable moment with the head creative lead.
Yeah, the French guy.
Where he started crying in the audience for how proud he was of the game. Which I think is amazing. Like, people have been giving him a lot of stuff, like, shit for it. Mm-hmm. But, like, he was so proud to finally... You know, he'd been probably wanting to work on a Mario game since he was a kid.
Yeah, and, I mean, Rabbids, to me, always seemed like this weird response to Nintendo games. Mm-hmm. Because it is. It's, like, little cartoony characters that are kind of silly and have a lot of personality.
Have you played any of them?
I haven't, but
They're bad.
Are they bad?
Oh, God. I've got at least one on the Wii, and it's just... an awful version of WarioWare.
Their marketing is good. I will say that. Their marketing's great.
They were Minions before Minions.
Yeah, they totally were. They have that exact same appeal. I think the difference is that they didn't become memes.
Yeah.
Much to probably the developers' sadness, but I personally don't want any more Minion memes, so that's
I was going into it when I first saw the Mario and Rabbids. I was interested. But the more I think about it, the more I think it's an awful idea. Not necessarily because of creative decisions. I just think that I don't understand where the meat of this game is. It's clearly getting its inspirations from, like, XCOM.
Yeah, it is a very XCOM game, which is so strange.
Yeah.
It's such a strange decision to be like, we're mixing Mario and Rabbids. And that together makes XCOM?
Yeah, but the levels don't seem to have that sort of intricacy that they at least do in the later XCOMs. Where
I don't know, because what we could be seeing is we could very easily be seeing the tutorial levels.
Which would be a really awful way to market this game.
It kind of would. But we could also be seeing, like, maybe a lot more of those background elements actually have impact. Like, if there's a flower on the field, in XCOM that just means there's a tree in your way. Mm-hmm. In this game, it might be like you can jump into the sky and do some crazy shit. I don't know. I want Nintendo to be innovating like this. Mm-hmm. I want people to be trying new things. And honestly, we don't get enough tactical RPGs. Mm-hmm. And maybe... I don't think this will cause a lot of tactical RPGs now. I think what'll happen is, like, a 10-year-old will play it, and 10 years down the road, we'll get this huge boom of tactical RPGs, because all the kids who played this growing up grew up and were like, we need more of Mario Rabbids.
I'm just wondering if it's going to be able to, like, spark that same sort of inspiration if it doesn't have anything else to it. We've also seen a little bit of the customization for characters, and it's a gun. It's just like a gun that changes.
Yeah.
Which, if they put in even like the maximum amount of effort, it's still not that much of a change.
Yeah, it isn't. But honestly, I think customization would be weird in a Mario game.
Oh, absolutely.
Because people would just be like, yeah, this is Mario's brother, Barrio, and he is yellow. And he has a bee on his hat, and other than that, he's just, like, shorter Mario. Oh, wait, I just made Wario. See, this is how they design those characters.
But, like, we've seen them be able to do at least different items and different, like, accessories in the Paper Mario series, or even the Mario RPGs. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping it has something like that, but from the UI that we've seen so far, it doesn't.
Yeah. I enjoyed XCOM, but the issue I had with it was that it was a little too intense for me. Which, I get it. Don't play XCOM if you don't want an intense experience. But I think the option of having just something that's incredibly lighthearted in that style would be nice.
I'm gonna get a lot of hate here. Is there an easy mode?
I think there's an easy difficulty setting, but it's still not easy mode. Because I think even then your guys can still perma-die.
Okay.
Which is just like... I mean, ultimately, I think the easy mode is you don't play it on Iron Man and you just reload saves when you have problems. But
right.
I think if you play one of those games and you reload a save, for me, there's no fun to it. Because at that point, I am... at that point, it's just like I'm re-rolling for RNG.
Yeah.
Which isn't fun. And I know that game pre-rolls RNG when you go on the map, but you could still, like, move in a different spot and get different RNG, so...
Okay.
Yeah. I think that a lot of the ways to make that game easier, unfortunately, like, foil its basic premise.
That's kind of a bummer.
It kind of is, but at the same time...
That's what you play the game for.
That's what you play the game for, and I just want something entirely similar mechanically, but that doesn't give me fucking stress.
Have you given the Fire Emblem series a try?
I do like Fire Emblem. My issue with Fire Emblem is that I find the writing is really stilted a lot of the time.
I can totally see that.
I played Sacred Stones, which is considered one of the better ones, and I found that, like, I didn't care about any of the characters, which sucks because it's a character-driven game.
Yeah.
If like someone were to tell me Fate has an amazing story and you should play Fate, I might try it. And then again, I've heard that, but I was like, yeah, it's probably just like all the other amazing stories of the other Fire Emblems that I don't think are that great.
And the worst part about Nintendo is you'll never get it on sale. Like, it is the price it will always be, so you can't really give it a try.
Yeah. I think there's a demo for Fates. Maybe I should try that demo.
That's not really a good way to get the story if that's what you're worried about, though.
But I think I could tell, like, really early on whether they were gonna phone it in terms of writing, or if they were going to, like, really establish the characters. I don't know. I have played Fire Emblem. And the issue I had with Fire Emblem 2 was, in Sacred Stones, I got to the final boss battle, and they have this mechanic where, not really a mechanic, but just kind of a menuing flaw, I think, where you can save the game after you set up your formation for your guys at the beginning of the battle. So if you really want to, like, think through, like, where am I going to place these guys, you can then save that setup so that you don't have to reset them up if you lose. But the problem is, if you lose and you find that you just can't get past it, you are locked into that save now, which means you can't exit the battle. So I ended up in a situation where I was underleveled for the final battle. I was saved into it, and I couldn't go grind. So I was just like, I quit.
I'm surprised there's not a way out of it. How old is that one? That's a GBA, right?
That was a GBA game, and I think it was a remake of an earlier game.
They lacked a lot of polish as far as that sort of thing goes back then.
Yeah, they did.
So moving on a little bit, we did want to talk about Spider-Man, because I think we were both kind of intrigued by that trailer.
Yeah, I'm more intrigued because you really like comics and superheroes and kind of stuff. I have never really been super into superheroes. The one superhero I have always liked has been Spider-Man, because I really liked the Spider-Man movies. I thought Tobey Maguire did a great job. The original, by the way, not the reboot of the reboot.
I've tried watching those again recently.
Are they terrible?
I still can't get past the first one.
Yeah, I watched the entirety of the reboot.
Oh.
It's not a good movie. And it bums me out because I like Spider-Man, and I want more things in the kind of media that I absorb that are Spider-Man related, because I don't like the standard comic book style. If I am going to read a comic book, I want something like a little meatier, like a proper thick graphic novel or something.
And they have those available. I know they have a couple for Spider-Man, but I don't know if you'd want to give it a go.
I might dive into that, because I tried reading the Spider-Man, like, comics, and it was just too short form to really grab my attention.
The weird thing about comic books is you can't read them, at least I can't read them in the short form. What they generally do is after an arc, they compile them all together.
That's what I did, but I found that the story was really disconnected still, because it had originally been published in that short form style.
Do you know who wrote that one, or what it was called?
I think I don't.
Okay.
It was a while ago.
It was probably a crap writer.
It was probably a crap writer, which is also something that I know is a problem with comic books a lot.
It's the biggest problem.
So, that said, gaming, at least games, tend to have a more consistent level of quality. So if this game is quality, I would expect the whole game to be quality.
I'm super excited for who develops it, because it's the same guy who did Ratchet and Clank.
Okay.
And they're really good at doing at least beat-em-ups. Like, that style of beat-em-up. If they give it enough diversity. And I'm also super excited about the guy the Peter Parker they've decided to go with. Because they went with a childish one. It seems like they're trying to go with what's coming out in Spider-Man Homecoming. And that is the best Peter Parker. And they, from what we've seen of his voice acting and his lines and his writing, they've got the nervous wit to him. Yeah. That really adds a lot of depth to his character. Because, like, with the new movies that came out, we saw how terrible he can be if he's actually, like, just on the ball all the time and has no wit.
I'm suave and beautiful and also a nerd and no one likes me for some reason.
But Peter Parker should be constantly freaking out, but you shouldn't be able to tell in the Spider-Man costume.
Yes.
I have a lot of very angry thoughts about Spider-Man. Flashing my nerd card over here.
Yeah. I hope that it's good. I really want it to be good. It looks kind of like a mix of Arkham with, like, something new we haven't really seen. This, like, kind of open world, but the web slinging specifically is just such an iconic way to get around, and something that, like, nobody else really does.
Have you played any of the older Spider-Man games?
I haven't, because I heard they're really janky, and that the only thing fun is running around the city with webs.
So there's Spider-Man 2, which is probably the one you've heard about. It's on the PS2, and it's actually web slinging. Oh, excuse me. It's the only game where you actually use buildings and you hook around them with web slinging. It's not very good, but it's the one that everyone gets super nostalgic about. I can't stand it. But there was a recent game that actually came out with the bad movies. That was the web slinging wasn't building based, which is a conceit that I'm okay with.
Yeah, I kind of remember that people were talking about how, like, the webs just go off screen into the sky and sort of disappear.
Which is, I always thought that was fine.
It's kind of how it works anyway. None of it is, like, based very heavily in reality.
Yeah.
Like, in reality, Spider-Man constantly has his arms ripped out of his sockets. That's the reality of Spider-Man.
Well, he does have super strength. That's his actual superpower.
I am aware that he does have super strength, and that the string, at least in some canons, is basically silly string canisters.
Yeah. I think the only one that didn't do that was the movie, the Tobey Maguire movie.
Really?
And that screwed me up, because I always thought that it came from him.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always did too, because I remember the movies. Interesting. Well, I was aware that super strength was part of his kit.
No, that's like his thing. That and Spider-Sense.
Right, Spider-Sense. I've just seen the comic book page that's him telling the guy he's summoning spiders.
Nice.
Yeah.
There was one other thing I was kind of excited about. In the trailer for that, they showed off a little bit of Miles Morales. Do you know who he is?
No, they expected me to know, because at the end of the trailer, the guy goes, "Come on, Miles," and the guy turns towards the screen, and I'm like, who's that guy?
He's basically Black Spider-Man.
Okay.
He's from an alternate universe where Peter Parker died, and he got the power and he took over for Spider-Man. And he's a really cool character. In the comics, he's a lot younger, than even original Spider-Man, and he has to deal with a lot of different issues. But he's got some weird personality.
I think I have seen, like, the covers of some of the comics he's been in.
Mm-hmm. He's one of my favorite characters. They're both back together in the same universe now, which is a little weird.
Yeah.
They're doing some weird things with him, at least in the movies. In Homecoming that's coming up, Peter's best friend is actually Miles' best friend.
Well, you know, the new Spider-Man has been kind of irreverent to the canon anyway, because they've done a lot of things that have just been dumb.
I'm excited for Homecoming, to be entirely honest.
Oh, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. It could be good.
I liked his portrayal in Civil War.
Isn't it another reboot?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's good. Because since the last canon was so terrible, maybe they realize that and they're going to reboot it back to something that is good again.
But they're working with Marvel now and Disney a little bit.
Yeah, which was, I think, a copyright problem for a while.
Well, Sony actually decided to work hand in hand with Disney. So they're still producing it, but they're getting a lot of input so it can actually be within the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
Okay.
I mean, they've got Robert Downey Jr. in Homecoming. Like, a lot. It looks like...
Oh, yeah, because weren't Stark's parents and Peter Parker's parents, like, friends or something?
I'm not sure about that.
Wasn't that a thing? Because...
Oh.
I don't fully remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All I know is that Stark was the one who gave Peter the suit in this movie universe.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Like, he still made the web slingers himself, but he got the whole get-up from Stark.
Interesting. Let's move on from Spider-Man.
I want to say one last thing about Spider-Man.
Okay.
I think the game's going to be shit. After hyping all of that up that much, I think the game is going to be absolute garbage. When I was watching the trailer, I was kind of intrigued by the combat until you realize he's got about 3 moves.
Yeah.
It's shoot web at guy, jump shoot web at guy, and kick guy.
Yeah, and and it's all just Arkham style, like, we add a flourish.
Which is fine. I like a lot of people like that combat.
Yeah.
But my biggest issue with it was 90% of that trailer is a QuickTime event.
Yeah, a good portion of it is. I feel like that was... For the most part, I feel like that was a decision to show more story because they felt like they would get more people on board if they showed Spider-Man being a cool badass.
I'm willing to predict right now that there's not going to be any web sling. Like, as far as, like, slinging from building to building, I think that it's all going to be mission-based. And I think that the web slinging is all going to be QuickTime events when it's related to the story.
Really? I got the sense that it's going to be, like, an open world game in the style of like Saints Row or GTA.
If they would have done that though, they wouldn't have made the just following the object a QuickTime event. They would have let you open world.
Was that a QuickTime event? I remember that a lot of the big like cinematic web slinging was QuickTime events, but was the just movement a QuickTime event too?
While you were following the thing.
I didn't see the button prompts for that. I didn't notice them.
Also bad.
Which is also a problem. If your UI is not clear enough that someone watching it has no idea that they're supposed to be pressing buttons, that's terrible.
Yeah. Okay, now we can move on from Spider-Man.
Yes.
I found out the coolest not E3 news.
Mm.
And you're going to be like, that's kind of dumb.
Mm.
They're remastering .hack.
Like the game?
Yes.
Are they compiling it? Because it was like 4 games initially, and that was dumb.
They are recompiling it. It's going to be GU. So it's not the original one, which I'm a little disappointed
So it's not
about.
Infection?
No.
Oh. Which one was GU? I don't think I only played Infection and the Infection sequels.
GU was about a player killer.
I read the manga, but what is the gameplay like?
It's very similar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then I'm into it.
It's coming out for PC.
Oh, yes. Yes. Okay, I'm definitely playing it now.
I think I just found this out last night, and I was sitting in my chair freaking out because of how excited I was.
Hell yes.
I haven't played that one yet, So I've only ever seen like a couple of minutes of gameplay from that.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's similar enough to the Infection series, I'm so stoked.
I wonder if it'll come with anime again.
Probably.
Remember how Infection had like a disc of anime that came with it? That explained the story before the story? That was I think Infection, honestly, was such a compelling game storytelling-wise.
Yeah.
Because they decided to just go full hog into the, like, it's an MMO kind of thing, like, where you navigate your desktop. And then that anime, if you remember, there was no in-game footage in that anime. It was literally, the anime is the real-life stuff, and then the game is all the game stuff, which is so cool.
Yeah.
I definitely am interested to see that game come out. What I think would have been better, maybe, is if they had made, like, something entirely new with Dot Hack.
Oh, absolutely. But it's so much easier to just send out a revamped version.
Maybe it's testing the waters for a new game.
I'm willing to buy it if it just means that we're more likely to get another one.
Yeah, I am too.
I love their map systems in those games. Where it's the entering code words.
Yes, that was really cool.
I remember, because I started reading the visual novels.
There's visual novels?
Yeah. If I'm using that word correct. No, I'm probably not using that word correctly.
Like the video games that are just...
No. Then I'm using that word complete. I started reading the novels that had a couple of pictures in them.
Oh, the light novels.
That's the word.
Yes.
And I remember reading about that, and I was constantly looking for an MMO that had something like that kind of world.
None of them do.
It didn't exist.
Yeah.
The closest was maybe Mabinogi, and this was during a time where all I was playing was free MMOs.
Yeah.
It killed me a little inside.
Yeah, I'm remembering nostalgia now of, like, being a kid and thinking Dot Hack was the coolest fucking thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. Good or not, I'll play it. I'll buy it, and hopefully they'll make more Dot Hack games.
Come on, Bandai Namco. They never do anything that's, like, for the people.
Yeah, Bandai Namco is kind of...
They're very in their own bubble.
They are. They are very much so.
So, we were talking about Metro Exodus last time.
Yes.
And we were both kind of excited but skeptical, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out that it's not an open world game. They just announced it's not going to be open world.
I didn't expect it to be.
Weren't they?
No.
Oh.
They were very, very directed experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're literally in train tunnels. You spend about 50% of the game actually on rails.
Oh, okay.
Not in the sense of like an on-rails shooter, but in the sense of choo-choo, here comes the fucking train.
That makes me feel a little better about it, because I went in thinking that it was going to be an open-world game, and all of the scripted events they were showing, there was no way any of those were possible.
No, it's not going to be, yeah.
I'm thinking now that it's restrained to areas, some of those scripted events might be possible now.
Yeah.
Which is good, because I think that sold me a lot on it. I don't know if it makes for good gameplay, but at least one or two of those will help you feel excited.
Yeah, I think... I've always been an advocate for constrained experiences like that over open experiences, and if they had said that we're gonna go open world, I would have been like, fuck that, not playing it then.
Yeah. I didn't get into constrained experiences until about this or last year, because I was super open world. I loved like the Minecrafts, the Skyrims, because I had a lot of fucking time.
I really... Okay, Skyrim, at this point, is probably one of my favorite games. Like, whether I like it or not, I have spent so much time in that game consistently since it came out.
Right.
That there's no way it's not one of my favorite games. But that's because it does open world well. It does! Honestly, Skyrim does open world well. It doesn't do open world, like, super well. But most games do open world terribly, and Skyrim is at least, like, making a really, like, directed effort to make the open world good. And I think it succeeded more than most open world games do. Because most open world games are literally empty.
Yeah.
And Skyrim isn't. Skyrim is shallow, but there's shit everywhere.
There is something else open world that I wanted to bring up, which... the new Assassin's Creed and the new Far Cry are not going to have mini-maps. Which is really weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
Skyrim didn't have a mini-map.
No.
But I think they're getting their inspiration from the new Zelda game. It didn't have a mini-map, and a lot of people thought it was better for it.
Mm-hmm.
It still had a map, of course.
Yeah,
but
all those games need maps.
The thing that made Zelda work really well with this
Yeah.
is that all of the landscapes are easily identifiable. You cannot say the same thing about Skyrim. If you stand and look for, like, a mountain, they all look like mountains.
You can maybe figure out what hold you're in. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe you can figure out what hold you're in. Specifically, like, the Rift looks pretty different just because all the trees are birch trees instead. Mm-hmm. But, like, for the most part, I would agree that Skyrim looks very samey. And I would say that Far Cry is even worse about that.
Oh, yeah.
Far Cry is so samey. And it has been in every game. 1 was really samey, 2, 3, 4, and I'm betting 5 is gonna hold on tight to that fucking tradition.
I'm wondering if there's gonna be a couple of things that help Far Cry. I'm more worried about Assassin's Creed, but Far Cry's set in America, in kind of like a little...
It's Arizona, right? Arizona?
No.
Desert somewhere, though, yeah?
It looks like farmland.
Or Missouri, Montana? Is it Montana?
It's some weird farmland, but I'm hoping that the roads and the fact that it looks like a well-put-together city might help a little bit.
Is it a city? I thought it was mostly, like, out in the boonies.
There's a town, and then there's a lot of out in the boonies, so it's hit or miss.
Yeah.
But Assassin's Creed I'm really worried about because I've seen the trailers for it. It's all desert land. Yeah. That is completely gone. Like, it's the original Assassin's Creed. I couldn't fucking tell where I was.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could have done it if you, like, made a really accurate representation of, like, Rome, for example. Because in Rome, there's so many iconic landmarks that you could figure out where you are. If you look around, it's like, oh, there's the Arc de Triomphe, so obviously I'm in that general area.
I would love to believe you on this, but I've played some of those iconic cities in Assassin's Creed.
I'm not saying they did it. I'm saying that maybe they could have.
Oh, okay.
I'm not confident that it's going to be successful here.
I'm wondering what the solution's going to be, because they're going to need some way to keep people knowing where they are, so it's either going to be reading through a giant map, which is a little awful.
Yeah.
Or maybe like a Fable style give you directions, in which case that ruins exploration.
It does.
Then it's just walk from point A to point B.
It is. And they have the Skyrim style compass, which makes me think that they're thinking like, well, what'll happen is you'll see like an icon on the compass and then you'll go, what's over there? And you'll walk over to the icon. But the problem I see is that it becomes like Skyrim where questing is suddenly... I will walk towards the mark on my compass until I get to the spot it's pointing me to, which is so boring.
Assassin's Creed, Far Cry have both done that, though. They both use the tower system, where you look at the tower and then immediately you know where everything is, and then you just walk there. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to shoot things or kill things. They both use that. It's a really awful system.
Yeah, I would agree.
A lot of people have been comparing that tower system to the Zelda tower system, where I know you haven't played very far. But you see a little bit in the first tower, but in the other towers, it's way more important. You get up to the tower, you get your map, it just shows you topography. Mm-hmm. But from there, you can kind of vaguely see where the other things you need to find are. They're glowing blue lights out there in the distance, but they don't automatically tell you where they are. Yeah. And then you have to explore to get there. Like,
it's a similar system, but I think the difference that was made in Zelda is in Far Cry 3, for example, which is my favorite Far Cry game.
Yeah, same.
Every time you start the game, they have you climb a tower. Like, that's kind of... They introduce you to that mechanic. And then they're like, go do a quest over here. Mm-hmm. And between you and that quest, there's 3 towers. And it's like, from the get-go, you're basically grinding towers.
Yeah.
Whereas Zelda was like, there's a tower every few hours of gameplay, which is a more balanced way to do it.
And their towers, I at least I thought, all held way different challenges. You didn't see it so much, but there's one tower where it's completely surrounded by this moat that'll suck you in. You can kind of use ice blocks to climb up to things to get a little bit of a vantage point, but you can't climb from the bottom of the tower to the top of the tower with your initial stamina wheel. So the way you have to do that is you actually end up having to domino knock things over until you get a little bit of a platform where you can get enough of a head start to get to the top of the tower.
Yeah, so the tower itself is a puzzle, as opposed to the Far Cry towers where it's literally just like, sometimes the like arrangement of the tower is different, but ultimately you will use your standard like jump and climb mechanics to get to the top.
And maybe you'll have to shoot something. Which I think is...
I don't think I've ever had to shoot anything to get to the top of the towers in Far Cry 3, having almost 100% of that game, so...
I had to kill something, but I don't think it was directly next to a tower. It was just the path I was going, which is my biggest complaint with Far Cry, in that there's not really problem-solving methods. Like, it's either walk around or kill them.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Which is what the game is for. But in an open world setting, there's only so many things you can do with that, I think.
Far Cry made an effort to have interesting stuff, but for the most part, you have to be willing to go in with the conceit that this is just a really good shooter game, and so I'm here for my shooter experience, not for my open world experience. I'd also argue the story, at least of 3, is very good.
Yeah.
2 is highly, highly questionable.
I hate it.
Yeah, a lot of people hate it.
I know you like it.
I did, but I have reservations about it.
Yeah.
4, I heard a lot of people say Pagan Min's parts were good, and basically everything else sucked. So, Far Cry's kind of all over the place in everything except shooting, which it's very good at.
Yeah.
So,
I like the first one.
If that's... I could never get into the first one because I had a bug.
Oh.
I had a bug during the tutorial or something. Like, I couldn't... They're like, throw the rock. And, like, whenever I'd throw the rock, it would just drop it at my feet or something.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, and I don't remember exactly what my issue was, but I was having issues with that.
Someone didn't pick up that can.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I want to take a little break here. Because, apparently, at 2 a.m. this morning...
Okay.
I don't remember doing this. But I... I wrote a page entitled "Fucking Awful Ideas."
Oh, good. Yes,
So,
let's hear some fucking awful ideas, guys. Here we go.
I'm gonna spam you with some ideas here, and I want to tell me if you'd kickstart these.
If I'd kickstart these, okay.
Or if you
and how much money I would put towards such a Kickstarter.
So I'm just gonna start off a little bit easy. This one's like, it's almost an okay idea.
Okay.
So there was recently an app for Spotify.
Yep.
That allows you to listen to music that no one's ever played on Spotify before.
Right, I heard about that.
Kind of interesting app. I've listened to it a couple of times. I found nothing good, obviously.
Yeah, because it's all just like, that's my song. Buy it on iTunes.
I want that for Steam.
Games that no one's bought before.
Ever bought before.
The issue with that is that, first of all, Kickstarter money towards this, 0. I would not pay money for this service. The issue with that, I don't think that there are any games on Steam, really, that no one's bought before.
You haven't seen my Steam library, which I guess is the problem.
Yeah. No, but I think because Steam is not super curated, obviously, but mildly curated, there's maybe 100 new things on the store on any given day, and a lot of the terrible ones are really cheap. So I imagine there are people who are just like, yeah, I own every game on Steam. Or like at least every shitty $1 game on Steam, and as a result there are no games that have not been bought before.
So I usually get my games for free from either like weird sources or just getting keys for free.
Yeah.
On Steam, obviously. Yeah. It's all DRM, whatever.
Yeah, I send you a lot of keys that I don't use from Humble Bundles and stuff.
And they're usually crap games, so my Steam library is filled with crap games.
Yeah, I know, I send you all the games I don't like, yep.
Some of them are fun. Thanks, actually, for that. Not that I think you'd like these, but... I actually fell for giving my own money for some crap games. When you craft a badge, sometimes they give you a coupon for a game.
Uh-huh.
And 2 times in a row, I'm like, oh, 10 cents? 5 cents? Sure. Oh my god, I regret buying both of them. I bought a platformer. I don't even want to say its name. Not because I don't remember, but it is because I don't remember. But also because I don't want anyone to ever buy this game. It was an amazing little platformer game made in Unity, obviously. Default opening thing where it's like, what's your graphic setting? Fantastic? It's the only option. Don't use those. Remove those. I'm a Unity developer. I know how this works. You can remove those so easily. Make your own menus.
No, I honestly, what I find more often than not is that there is a drop-down box and that there are selections, but that they make no difference whatsoever.
The defaults for that are a little bit different, but because of the way people develop for it, they don't actually implement the options correctly.
Right. Yeah.
So this weird little platformer was supposed to be one of the kind where it's super intense about where you always have to be standing. You always want to be jumping from the very edge of something, and there's tons of moving things. Like a really bad Meat Boy clone.
Okay.
Using physics.
Ooh.
And your hitbox is a cylinder.
Ooh.
So if you stand on the edge of one of these blocks,
you're slipping.
Off.
Yeah. Which means that it reduces your force when you jump, right?
Yes.
Which means that, for all intents and purposes, your jump is RNG.
Yep.
Okay. I see the problem.
There was a lot of... I thought the game could have been okay if they had made the hitbox a square. Like, they advertised themselves as being a hard game where you always have to use your skill. And I thought, like, yeah, okay, if you want people standing on the edge of the boxes to make your jump, that's okay. That's your game idea.
There is a reason that Meat Boy is square.
Yeah.
There's a reason that he's a square, and it's not because... I'm sure that it is because it looks better, but I'm also really sure that...
I don't know if...
Meat Boy's a square because
old Flash had round hitboxes. Because it was originally a Flash game.
It was originally a Flash game. Did Flash not have round hitboxes?
I don't know.
I thought it had definable hitboxes where you could actually set a path as a hitbox.
Flash was weird. I hated developing for Flash.
Well, we don't have to anymore. It's a depreciated format.
It's super dead. Okay. Next idea. So Nintendo's doing Netflix for arcade games.
Right.
It's if you pay for their online service, you get arcade games, just like a Netflix catalog. You just you play them whenever you want. Redbox for arcade games. You have to go to the store and you get the cartridges out of these, and they're NFC cartridges that you can use on your Switch that actually let you play the arcade games.
I don't own a Switch, but if, say, they did this for PC, I would still never use it because it would require me to leave the house. I may have used it back when I was working in the restaurant because I was constantly at the supermarket across the street, and they had a Redbox. But I would never use it in any situation where I actually want to play a video game.
Hear me out. It fits perfectly with Nintendo's marketing of you have to go out to get it, it's really inconvenient, and there's limited supplies.
Oh, jeez. So it's like amiibos in these things.
Yeah.
I would pay $10 to see angry teenagers scream at a Redbox machine.
So did you hear that? I'm just going to move on straight to the next one.
Go for it, yeah.
Rimjob World porn parody.
Rimworld, but a porn parody. Okay, how much would I pay for that?
Post-apocalyptic, character-driven.
Character-driven space colony porn. I don't know. $10 for the fucking just because it's interesting, and I want to encourage people to have interesting ideas in any industry that they care to have interesting ideas in.
So, did you hear that the GTA killed off its modding API?
Yes, I am aware.
I want to talk about a little bit about that later.
Is that a Kickstarter idea? Is this still a Kickstarter idea?
Oh yeah, this is...
Okay, we're still doing this bit.
An official GTA modding API
Uh-huh.
that just lets you change textures for things. Also, probably microtransactions.
Hey, if I'm already paying microtransaction money, I ain't kickstarting shit.
Oh god. Speaking of microtransactions...
Also, everybody would just retexture things to be penises.
I don't know, have you seen some of the GTA mods?
Yeah, but if you put up an official API right now that just let you retexture things, people would, in anger and rebellion, just retexture things to be penises.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So, I'm gonna remove us from this bit.
Okay, the bit is over.
No more fun!
Bad Kickstarter hour is officially at an end.
I have some more. We might do them later. I don't remember writing these.
Oh, good. So they're new to you, too.
Yeah. I really want that red box. I'm really proud of that.
That's a terrible idea.
They can look like the old cartridges.
I guess.
Oh, that'd be cool. So, there was recently a job listing from Microsoft on one of their websites that they post job listings on. And I thought this was the weirdest way to describe a new job listing. They describe it as, they're looking for developers to make a game that's like Zero Dawn. What an awful way to sell your project. Like, I get it.
It is like that successful breakout hit that people were vaguely hyped for, but nobody really expected much of.
At least hide the fact that you're totally going to rip off this game.
Yeah,
I'm sure it will evolve. I'm sure it'll be a different story. But when you're calling in developers straight up saying, just make that game again. What are you expecting?
That game again.
Yeah.
I mean, they want that money, and I don't know. Yeah, no, it's not very tactful, but how else do you make that job posting?
Also, it's kind of weird that they don't really specify what they want out of that game. Because when you're developing...
They probably don't know.
Yeah.
They were probably marketing people like, Zero Dawn did well. People cheered when they announced the DLC. Let's make one of those. And they were like, cool, put out a job listing. We want to make Zero Dawn. And that was the most thought that's gone into it at this point, probably. Especially if they're just now looking for devs.
Yeah.
The dev cycle on that is like 2 weeks old.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. So...
Zero Dawn was an interesting game. I didn't get a chance to play it because I think it's console only.
It is console exclusive. I have not played it. It looked pretty, but I am not at all interested in the story. It just looked generic to me.
I really was interested in the world and the story of that.
That both looks so generic. It just looks like Far Cry Primal, but we replaced all the animals with robot asset flips.
I really love that dichotomy of robots in primal areas. It does something to me. It's why I'm so excited for that new Ubisoft game. What is it? Anthem?
Anthem. Which does a very similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting, because I'm sure when Anthem development started, they hadn't even, seen anything out of Zero Dawn yet. So it's really interesting that both of those came along at the same time.
That tends to happen.
It does, but it's just such a specific...
Yeah.
It's such a specific aesthetic that it's weird.
I like that it's different enough, though. Like, in Horizon Zero Dawn, the enemy is the mysterious thing is the robot. That's the thing you're trying to figure out. Why is it there? Well, in Anthem, it seems that you're the robot. Almost the nature is the mysterious thing?
Yeah, I would agree that the robots are like, yeah, they're just robots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of want to play Horizon Zero Dawn.
I don't.
There's no chance in hell I'm going to be able to.
We don't even... I know one person who has that console, and I wouldn't talk to them.
Oh, I know someone with a PS4.
It's on PS4.
I'm gonna steal someone's PS4. Fuck, I need to go back to Oahu.
Yeah.
I have a conversation topic you're not gonna want to talk about.
Okay, sure.
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky.
Yep.
You want to talk about VR in No Man's Sky?
No, they're running an ARG.
An ARG, that's right.
Which, it's a really cool ARG. It started a couple of weeks ago, and they gave out 16 tapes to random people in the community.
Okay.
One side of the tape said, or it was a song that was slightly remixed from one of the randomly generated songs in the game.
Okay.
The other side was pure static.
Okay.
Obviously, they put that through a spectrometer.
Yeah, you gotta figure it out.
Yeah, and so it ended up having a hash in it that said Portal once they translated it all out.
Right.
Which was kind of the end of that until they started finding these weird websites. And they actually found these entire websites that looked like business websites for space-age companies trying to do stuff with alternate realities.
Okay.
And so now we've been going through those. They've been calling phone numbers. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, it's
RPG.
a full-sized ARG.
We found out that they did hire a company to make it, which I thought was really cool of them.
I mean, they had to do something with all of that, like, theft bucks they got from, like, lying to people.
They're producing games now. They're producing indie games.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they started a whole separate kind of company for it to produce indie games that use random generation. Because it's something...
It's something they focused on and something that they're passionate about.
It was something
I know
all
that their
developers
music
really
is
liked.
actually really revolutionary, regardless of whether the game itself was very good.
One of their head developers was doing research on that music before it came out, and the band they worked with was super into that. But the ARG is really well put together, and I have a couple of problems with it. It's been coming out really slowly. It's been a couple of weeks without any word from Hello Games. Which is, I mean, it's not as bad as Sombra Time, but I have a feeling it's going to get there, because they've got a couple of other websites that they haven't used yet, and I think they're going to be coming out over the next couple of weeks, which is too long for an ARG.
No, ARGs need to be very, like, when you're ready to move on, the next step is there.
Yeah. Also... I love the idea of ARGs not for a game being super long, like something that could take like a year. But when it's coming for a game or an update that we've been waiting for so long, get it the fuck out there. We already know it's coming. The ARG is just for fun. We know the update's coming. Just get it out. We want the update.
I mean, it took them forever to do the first update.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really surprise me that they're kind of dragging their feet again.
Yeah.
It seems to be something we should expect of this studio.
Oh, absolutely. I have one other big problem with it, and it's a purely Hello Games issue. Hello Games was renowned for not being able to communicate with its player base. When it came out, they dropped off the face for, 6 months?
Yes. I remember that there was actually a couple websites that were tracking days since his last tweet.
They were hiding in their office. There were people in the office building over posting pictures of them, like, running from their office to their car.
Jesus.
They would refuse to talk to anyone. Why do an ARG if you're trying to get better at talking to your player base?
It's true. Yeah.
We're so angry about them obfuscating information. So they made a game out of it.
I don't know. Your kind of, like, weird obsession with No Man's Sky. At this point, I expect you to care. I don't expect that anyone else really does. I'm sure that there's a community, because there's always a community. But I have the sense that very few people really care about No Man's Sky at this point.
The community was really bolstered by this ARG.
I mean, it's a good marketing decision, though.
It totally is. And there's still a fair amount of people who care about it. It's not the biggest game, but it was...
It was big when it came out.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It's like most games. It's got its own niche community. It's definitely not mainstream as it was, which it never should have been. I strongly believe that it shouldn't have been mainstream, and they marketed it awful for that, and most of the marketing was just people to people making stuff up. I mean, there was a lot of lies from Sean Murray. I will not discount that.
Yeah.
But a lot of
people did just, like, jump to conclusions about what it was going to be.
And a lot of it, you can watch the older interviews, and you see how things change, where they're trying to keep up with expectations. The older interviews, they say, it's not for everyone. There's a point where he actually says, you might get bored playing this game sometimes. Which is one of the things that sold me on it. I'm like, that's cool. You're okay with this having boring things.
Yeah, and you liked Elite Dangerous, too.
Yeah.
Which, Elite Dangerous isn't boring, but it definitely does have some downtime.
Yeah.
Where it's you dialing in your hyperdrive, and so you're sitting there, and you're focused, but you're not really interested.
No.
And it's a very good, like, put on some music and don't do anything for a couple hours game. Which maybe No Man's Sky is, too.
No.
No?
No. Because, and I'm having a little revelation here,
Uh-huh.
is I mistook his word for what he meant boring meant.
Mm-hmm.
I thought boring meant that there was going to be planets where there was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it meant there was going to be planets where you're just, like, you get there, and you're like, I just wasted, like, a bunch of my fuel. I just wasted a bunch of my time to get here, and there's nothing on here. I gotta go check the next planet to, like, maybe get out of that. Add some tension. What he meant by boring is apparently all of the planets are the goddamn same. There will always be the same weird-ass creatures. There will always be the same weird-ass crystals.
Yeah.
Occasionally there's rare things. But, like, even a diversity where there is nothing would have been better.
Yeah.
Because it adds tension.
Yeah, it does. And are there literally no just, like, barren moon planets?
There are planets where there are slightly less plants. Or there are planets where there are, like, no animals, but they will all have the same resources that help you get out of there. They added a lot of safety measures. And I don't know if this was something that happened after it became mainstream, or if it was always what was there. But you cannot really fail. Which was because I love Elite Dangerous. You get stuck in space, game over!
No, I've literally been, like, at the end of a really long haul, carrying a ton of really expensive stuff that would have let me buy my next ship once I had sold it at port.
Yep.
And I was going in to land, and somebody clipped my wing, and I crashed into the fucking station. And I was like, what the fuck? I just turned off the game, and I don't think I've gone back to it. And that was after putting, like, 20 hours into that game.
It's not good anymore. It kills me to say that.
Yeah,
the DLC
you have to get the DLC if you want to play the game, but it's another full $60.
Yep, and they're going to keep doing that every time.
And they're going to keep doing it every time.
And
so
it really kills me because they started adding really cool things. They added aliens, finally. And they added a mystery.
Yeah, no, there's a ton of shit going on in that game if you can be bothered to drop the, like, $180 it takes to get into it at this point.
Have you seen the alien thing?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
So, one guy playing on Xbox, I believe, and we don't know if this was the first person to see it, but about a year back, was stopped in the middle of a hyperdrive. And he didn't know what was going on, and then a massive, it looked like a starfish made by the guy who makes Twin Peaks, David Lynch.
Oh, God.
Pulls it seriously, like, horror style.
Jesus. Wait, so Cthulhu's in this game now?
Kind of, but I think it's a spaceship.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like the, what is it? The Tyranids from 40K.
It's really cool.
Okay.
Pulls out and just shows up in front of him, and it, like, stops him mid-air and, like, starts to suck him up.
Oh, Jesus.
And he just manages to pull out, and then it warps away. The guy didn't have a warp scanner. He couldn't follow it.
Oh, shit.
And I haven't really been following since then.
That sucks.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh no, it's the biggest mystery in this game, and I'm one of the first people to experience, and I don't have enough upgrades.
Yep. Fuck. But I did see some news recently. They've been able to consistently recreate, or not recreate, but refine the spaceship.
Is it always in one spot, or is it like a specific jump or something?
So a long time, even before that, there were these weird life forms on the planets. They look kind of like tentacles coming out of the ground, and you can mine them for a super rare resource that made stations disappear when you brought it there.
Weird.
Yeah.
That's super broken. Holy shit.
It was on purpose.
I mean, I get that it's on purpose, but I'm thinking, like, in terms of the, like, because there's galactic wars and stuff, it's like Eve Light, kind of.
It wouldn't happen at just one thing. It was whenever there was a big enough concentration of it in any state. Oh, and then no one knew where they went. But now, if you manage to find one of these life forms, and you just wait there for, like, 2 hours, because it's Elite Dangerous, you just... Yeah. One of the ships will come down and start mining that plant. Like,
interesting.
Yeah. So they've got a really cool mystery there. That's awesome if I want to spend $60 more on a game I already bought.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I I wish Elite Dangerous had not gone down that route.
That's the weirdest way to do DLC. And it's super awesome because it brings in new players because they see, oh, $60 and I get the new DLC? Of course.
Yeah.
But
it just butchers the player base every time they do it.
Yep.
And I think it's going to really hurt the longevity of that game. What I want to see is, like, 5 years down the road, if they don't go, okay, never mind, it's all free. Like, once you buy the base game, you just get it all. Which is going to screw over people who've been in it. But at this point, there's going to be a cycle of screwing people over regardless.
I don't get that. I don't get why people... I mean, okay, I get it, but I think it's really dumb when people feel like they've been screwed over by having to pay for something and getting it for years, and then it goes free. They're bringing more people to their player base, and I get it. You spend all that money, you want to feel elite. You want to... elite.
Elite.
And
to me, it's not about feeling elite. To me, it depends on how it's done. If it's literally like, we need to do this to inject players into our player base because our game's dying, fine, do it. But if it's like, our game is so old we don't feel comfortable charging full price for it anymore, that's fine too. But if it's a situation of like Elder Scrolls Online, I bought that game fairly early.
Yeah. And
then they went... Well, I'm a little more okay with the way they did it, because you still have to pay for your DLC. But...
Would you be...
Sorry, when they moved that to free-to-play, or at least the base game's not... Oh! Wait. That's not free.
No.
I'm not talking...
No.
I must be thinking about something else. Never mind. Go on with
Would you be angry, though, if they took it and made it free-to-play, even though you've already paid?
At this point, no. But if they had done it within, like, a couple months of me starting, I would have been kind of peeved.
I guess
just because I would have been like, you made a bad business decision, and I paid for it. And that makes me feel... Okay, I think that's what it is. When it's a business decision of, oh shit, we made a mistake and no one's buying our game, and so we're going to make it cheaper, that makes me feel screwed over. Because then it's like, I tried to make this work for you guys, and I got screwed. If it's a situation of, we're at a point where we're going to go to free to play because it's the best decision we can make for the game, then I'm fine with that.
To bring back a really old example, people were furious when TF2 went free to play. People thought
that was an old
ruined the game. Yeah. But that let the game live on for years longer.
Yeah, people still play it.
It's bad now because of their latest update. Have you heard?
No.
They made it ranked. And I have a theory about this. A crazy crackpot 9/11 theory about this.
Okay, go for it.
So I'm going to explain what happened with the rank thing.
Okay.
So they made it ranked, and that completely split the player base into people who play ranked and people who play casual. And every casual game is just free-for-all. No one cares there. It's dancing around. No one even bothers to play anymore.
Oh.
And ranked is super ranked, where it's all the competitive people who want to get their best levels and their goals.
So there's no middle ground where people just, like, play the game.
Which was all TF2 did.
Yeah.
Like, there were custom maps for both sides, really.
Yeah.
But all TF2 really did. There's no quick play anymore. It's one or the other.
Jesus.
And I think they did this on purpose, because it happened after Overwatch came out. And there was a long time before any update before, and I think they just wanted to kill it.
They wanted to kill TF2.
There was finally a successor. It was Overwatch.
Yeah.
And the developers...
I mean, it's Valve.
We're done.
Yeah.
Especially because the community kept hating on them for every update. They were always angry. No one was ever happy there anymore, and I think they just wanted to let it go, and they couldn't just say, no more servers.
Yeah, they couldn't. I think Valve is... From the past few years, it seems like Valve is taking a step back in terms of developing games. Because the only game that they actively develop now is basically Dota 2.
Yeah.
Like, is there anything else that's active at Valve?
We have some rumors and some character art for Left 4 Dead 3.
Okay, so potentially that. But I mean, other than that, I think Valve is transitioning into being like, we are Steam.
Yeah.
We're not Valve anymore, we are Steam. And we will work towards improving Steam, which they have been over the past few months, we've heard a lot of things coming down the pipeline for Steam that are going to improve.
I want to talk about something, and it's a bit old news, but it made me so happy.
Mm-hmm.
So they killed Greenlight.
Yeah.
And my heart sunk.
Right.
As in, I'm like, I want to be an indie developer.
Right.
I've been developing games, and Greenlight was always something that was there for me. It's not the best system.
It's accessible.
But yeah, it allowed me to get a game out there, and they dropped it.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, there were rumors that the only way you were going to be able to get on Steam was like $1,000 or $5,000 deposit,
mm-hmm.
which is unaccessible.
I think it's like $100, isn't it?
It's $100.
Yeah,
which I don't think solves their problem. I think they fucked themselves, but it took such a weight off of me.
The way they described it, because I've heard a little more depth about this.
Yeah.
The way that they said that it was going to help them was that $100 is not going to stop the vast majority of Tosh getting on.
No.
But the
Tosh?
Oh, Tosh, the terrible shit. The garbage.
I've never heard that. I like that.
I think it's British. Anyway, the garbage is still going to be there regardless because there are like legitimate studios publishing garbage.
Yep.
Sort of legitimate studios. There's big studios that just publish garbage en masse.
Yeah.
So, Greenlight wasn't really helping keeping that out.
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of a gateway, but the gateway was really arbitrary. And now the gateway is, if you want to make a Unity asset flip and try to make $40 on a game,
mm-hmm.
now it's not an option at all anymore, because you'll lose money. Now you have to kind of be of the opinion that either this is entirely a vanity project and I'm putting it out there because I want people to experience my game,
mm-hmm.
in which case you'll pay the $100 and you'll be happy. Or you're like, I legitimately think that I'm going to make at least $100 on this game.
Yeah.
And between those two things, there's a lot of people caught in the middle who will just not publish on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
And most of those, some of those games, it's going to be unfortunate.
Yeah.
Some of those games, it's going to be like, that game deserves to be on Steam, though.
Do you think Undertale would have made it?
Oh, yeah, because it's $100.
Do you think he would have put up that collateral up first? I totally believe he would have made that money back.
Yeah, he definitely made the money back. No, I totally think he would have, because even if, he personally, even if Toby Fox didn't have the money for it, he probably would have gone to the Homestuck people. Because he worked really closely with them for years, and What Pumpkin is already developing games. And it would have been kind of weird, but possible that that Undertale would have been published under What Pumpkin, just because they put up the $100 for him to go on Steam. Which I think Hussey would have made that choice, because it's such an easy choice. It's like, there's a lot of effort in this game, there is some hype behind it, I put up $100, and if I get less than 1%, I'm probably going to make my money back.
Yeah.
And even if he wasn't, he seems like a very community-driven dude, because that's basically how he got famous, so I think he would have helped him. I don't think it would have been an issue. But yeah, for some, I've heard it brought up that, like, Ukrainian devs and like Russian devs might have issues with it, because $100 there is not $100 in America.
Yeah.
$100 in America is, maybe if I'm really poor, it's a struggle to get it.
Yeah.
But I can probably still make the money.
Yeah.
In Ukraine or any third world country, really. I'm just using those because there are devs from there that have complained about it.
Yeah.
It's a huge amount of money. It's potentially devastating, especially if you put up that money and you don't make it back.
I would even say that for Americans, at least, with our minimum wage, even if it's a big struggle, it's never out of reach.
Yeah, $100 is never out of reach. It's something you can find almost all the time.
Yeah. Like,
even if it's straight up like, is this going to be $100, and as a result, this month I'm going to go without X thing.
Yeah. Like, maybe I won't eat food this month to get my game out, but as a game dev, that's okay. Just make those sacrifices.
No food for a month. I'm going to die, but my game is going to be published, guys.
I get that. No, it's like a starving artist thing.
It is. It very much is. And there's a reason that starving artist is the word we use. It's not because it's a fucking joke. It's real.
If I had my finished game, and I didn't have $100, and I had to choose between eating for a month or getting that published, to be entirely honest, I would publish.
Yeah. I mean, and I hesitate to call myself a writer anymore because I'm not consistent like I used to be, and I'm not... I haven't written anything really big in a long time. But I do still one day want to publish something. And if $100 to publish something sounds fucking great. Because I'm probably looking at like a couple $100 in postage to places that are gonna mail my shit back to me. If I want to try to publish.
Yeah.
Let alone like getting an agent and stuff like that. So, I mean, as far as game dev in terms of the barrier to entry, it's fairly low compared to some other industries.
And it's a weird industry, because with publishing books and stuff, if you get a couple of copies for yourself, you can bring them to a used bookstore and just be like, hey, I'm a local author, can you hold these? I don't need any money from them, just like get my name out there.
Yeah.
Games, that's really hard to do, because games is basically entirely over the internet. So you're fighting the swarm of people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and that's an issue in publishing too.
Yeah.
There's a term for it. We call it the slush pile. And when your book doesn't make it and you go to the slush pile, you can literally get blacklisted from publishing companies because your shit's in the slush pile. And it's just where all of these books sit kind of forever on this waiting list that just gets longer, and they push further and further to the back. So, yeah, I do think that $100 could be a barrier to entry, but I don't see it being a huge barrier to entry.
Yeah.
And if it had been like 1,000, then it would have been devastating for a lot of people.
I want to say something. You mentioned Unity asset flips earlier, and I am so happy Unity assets exist.
It's great that they exist, but it's definitely true that they allow these types of games that are literally just like, it is a minimal shell around cheap assets.
I haven't used any of the assets myself. It's not something I like to do, just because I'm the kind of person who
wants to create
to do as much as possible myself. I am working on a Unity asset for 2D pathfinding. I've almost got it completely documented. I'm going to put it up for free on the store because that needs to be a free thing.
Right.
I'm so happy that we can get young developers out there. I started when we were in 7th grade together, making things for Game Maker, and now that Unity is so accessible, like, Unity is still not perfectly accessible. I don't know I think 8th grade me could have done it because I was doing C++ then.
Yeah.
But when I was first getting into it, it's not as accessible as Game Maker was. So having these assets that, like, someone with no game experience at all can use to just have something on screen, even if they don't sell it, that is an amazing bit of inspiration for them.
Yeah, the problem isn't the assets, the problem is how people use them.
And that's unavoidable.
Yeah, it's a condition of the experience.
And it sucks to say it's on the consumer, but it's a little bit on the consumer to just check and make sure you know what you're getting.
It's also kind of on Steam. It's kind of on Steam's
How do you
shoulder.
quantify that, though? Like, how do you make a set of rulings saying this is an asset flip, it can't be on here?
Not even saying that it's just an asset flip, it can't be on here. Say that if your game is going to be on Steam, we're going to curate it to the degree that you would expect, like, a GameStop to be curated. Yes, GameStop sells shitty games. Most of the shitty games have a publisher behind them who has a history of not making shitty games, or at the very least selling their shitty games well. And I think the issue is that Steam is totally willing to let anything onto the store.
I think as long as it works, it should be on there. I think that they might need to change their search results. And I absolutely believe that, like, if it gets taken, if it gets enough hate, hide it. Just throw it in the trash pile. Don't remove it. Make it accessible to people who search it out for whatever reason. But if we... there's no good way to just say this is a good game.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find out that a developer is doing things like this,
Mm-hmm.
and they get better, you've just ruined their chance to show that they've gotten better.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know. I feel like can we agree that Steam probably needs to curate their store better?
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to happen.
I don't know how it's going to happen either. Apparently they have ideas internally. But obviously...
Oh yeah, Total Biscuit was talking about that.
Yeah, obviously, Valve is really, really not a fan of, like, talking to the community about the things they're going to do.
Yeah.
They're very much like, here's the thing, it's out now. Go use it.
They're trying.
Yeah.
They're trying a little better. It's not good enough, but it'll get there. I can't honestly say that. I've seen their customer service. It's
terrible, and their storefront has been kind of terrible for a long time. And
I'm going to say something a little controversial, and I've mentioned this to you before, but I really hope the Windows Store kicks off.
Yeah, you did say that.
One, because Windows apps have some weird memory things that allow them to better utilize, which is incidental to the next one, in which it adds competition. I'm hoping that every game they showed off on the Microsoft press conference is Microsoft Store only.
It doesn't go to
Steam. I understand that it might kill some of their sales.
It will.
But in the long term, it'll be better for Steam.
Yeah, because it'll force them to innovate to keep up. I could foresee the issue being that Steam just, like, that Valve ignores the problem. That they say, like, there's
which
no
means
way
Steam
the
dies.
Which means that Steam dies. Which would... I mean, Gabe Newell says he has a big button that makes everybody's DRM stop working, but we'll see how that works out.
That basically already exists. The Steam DRM can be taken out so easily.
Yeah, with one DLL in the folder.
So it's not
which I've had to use for games that I bought before because they were broken. The Steam DRM does break some games.
It happens.
Yeah.
DRM sucks. I get why it's there.
I've always felt like Steam is probably one of the better DRM systems.
Yeah.
Because it's ultimately pretty non-invasive. Obviously, there's situations, like I said, I had to turn it off for one game because it was breaking the game, but by and large, it's pretty non-intrusive, and I've never had a situation where it's, like, broken into my game and been like, you have to stop playing because you have violated the DRM services requirements and blah, blah, blah.
Steam DRM is the perfect DRM, and it's every time someone talks about piracy, it's because it's more convenient.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every time someone tries to justify piracy,
yeah.
When people talk about piracy, it's like, oh, it's bad. But Steam, I find personally, is more convenient than just having the game.
Yep. No, Steam is. I would rather have. I mean, I own discs for Morrowind and Oblivion. Mm-hmm. I bought them on Steam. So I don't want to have to go find my discs every time.
Yeah.
I was like, it's $10. I would pay $10 to not have to go. And nowadays, I don't have a disc drive anymore.
Yeah.
So I need digital download.
I saw the coolest product and I need to buy it.
What is it?
It goes where the disc drive is.
Uh-huh.
And it's just a drawer.
That just has shit in it?
You can just put stuff in there.
Honestly, I thought you were going to say, and I don't know why this is where my brain went, but I want it now. It goes where the disc drive would go, and it's a toaster. Here's my Kickstarter pitch to you. How much would you pay for a toaster that runs on USB?
Literally zero. I have a 290X in there. It is the hottest graphics card.
So you already own a toaster. I already
own one. It is consistently like 95.
That's not enough to toast something, though. Toast is like 450.
95 Celsius.
Oh! That's only like 200 Fahrenheit. That's still not enough to toast something. That is enough to overcook a steak, though.
Yeah. I can cook eggs in my computer.
You can? That is true.
I can't boil water, so...
You're close, though. You can simmer water.
So if I ever need to sell, like, my stove and, like, most of my food, I can't cook
to
ramen.
To pay for the $100 to get your game on Steam? If you sell your stove, you can use your computer. I can't use
my computer to cook ramen. I'm not going to be able to afford steak.
True. True.
Sorry, 290X. It might happen.
Yeah. So,
I want to talk a little bit about what we've been playing this week. What
yes.
have you been playing?
You're
going to be disappointed with what I've been playing.
I've been playing 2 games, actually.
Okay.
So, let's talk about the one I started playing first.
All right.
So, one of my favorite games, and I never talk about it because I very rarely think about it, because I beat it years ago and I've never gone back to it, was Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced.
Ooh,
the one that was on, the
yeah,
one that was on GBA.
I love that game.
Yeah. So, I was like, there are 2 other games in that series that I've never played.
Are there?
There are 2. There's Tactics, which is the original one, the one that came out first. Before that one, which was on PS1 and has since been ported to Android, I found out.
That makes sense. They've been doing a lot of that, Square Enix.
Yeah. And then there's also A2 Grimoire of the Rift. Grimoire of the Rift? Yeah, Grimoire.
What the hell is that?
What?
No, Grimoire of the Rift.
Yeah, it's the DS one.
Oh.
Yeah, there was one for DS. So, I went back and I played Tactics.
Yeah.
And the story, like, drew me in immediately. I was like, this is really well written. The characters seem sort of realistic. It doesn't have the problem that a lot of video game writing has, especially in JRPGs where it's really long form, where it gets stilted and they just start, like, explaining things to you via dialogue with someone who already understands it. I thought it was really good. Issues I had, it controls like ass.
Yeah.
And, it just hasn't aged well. It's not as colorful as Tactics Advanced, which is one of the things I loved about that game, was how colorful it was. The job system's a lot more rudimentary, which is kind of what I expected. But I found that taking a step back in that series just hurt it too much for me to be able to play.
Yeah.
As much as I was enjoying the story, it's also really grindy. Which Tactics Advanced didn't feel grindy.
It was there.
It was there. It just was really good at obfuscating that, I felt like.
Yeah.
This was just, like, openly grindy. By, like, the 3rd story battle. So the 3rd battle, I had to grind, like, 10 other battles to even be able to beat it. And at that point I was just like, because and it doesn't use the same battle mechanics as Advanced did, where you could just take up a quest at a pub and then go into the map. I hadn't unlocked quests yet, I assume, because there were pubs, but there were nothing in them. So I was just walking back and forth waiting for random spawns on the world map.
That sucks.
It does. And the battles were really hard.
Yeah.
Which, cool. The battles are hard. That's going to make the late game a lot more fun. Early game, it was just like, I have very few abilities to work with this. And as a result, I'm literally just, like, barely, like, grinding through each of these battles. And it kind of sucked. So, I went and I played Grimoire of the Rift.
Yeah.
Also
a disappointment.
No, I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot, which is weird because everybody says it's the worst of the 3.
That's weird.
I would say it's my favorite of the 3.
Oh.
It's just Final Fantasy Tactics, but more. I've also found that I am liking the story. So it seems like this series has a running habit of being really good with story, which is cool. I'm liking the story. If anything, it's more colorful and bright and vibrant, which is, like, super cool. That's what I want out of my JRPGs. Job system's more robust than it was, which is just, like, it adds more. They changed questing.
Yeah.
It's mostly the same, but there's new types of quests now. Like, there's one quest that keeps showing up, type of quest that keeps showing up, where they'll drop you into a battle, and there'll be these objects that you have to go examine, which takes what would normally be, like, your action for that turn. So, you don't even really have to fight the enemies on that stage. If you can get a bunch of mobile guys, you can just run them around and examine all these things, and then you'll clear the mission.
That's cool.
And they changed the experience system. In Tactics and Tactics Advanced, the experience system is every time you take certain types of actions, you gain experience.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, it is, it seems to be sort of action-based, but it's also giving experience to everybody who takes part in the battle, and it's giving job points, which are what you use to advance your jobs, to everybody in your clan every time you clear a battle.
I can see why people who are like old to the series might hate that, because you remember playing Pokemon X and Y when they changed the EXP share to go to everyone,
and everybody freaked out.
And you were one of the people who really hated that decision. I really liked that decision.
I felt like it broke the level curve.
I was fine with that, because I never liked grinding in those games.
I've never had to grind in a Pokemon game.
Really?
I've never grinded in a Pokemon game, except for a few Elite Fours. A few Elite Fours have made me have to grind. Specifically, I think the Elite Four in Platinum, and the Elite Four in, I think, Ruby.
Ruby, I had to grind a lot.
I think those two were the only ones I had to grind for. All the rest, I would run the Elite Four, like, I'd run the first time, maybe die around the second person, but then I'd gain enough experience that I'd get to the third and then the fourth, and I'd finally beat the champion on, like, my fourth or fifth run. So that, I usually didn't have to grind in Pokemon games. But I felt like with the experience share, it was either, if it's on, you are miles ahead of everybody else, and if it's off, you end up having to grind. What I found is that if I was turning it off and on periodically, I was pretty much fine with the level curve, which was something I started doing in, I think, Sun and Moon. Because I think you get it fairly early on in Sun and Moon, too, yeah. So I was just toggling off and on to, like, keep my levels about where I wanted them for the difficulty I wanted, which worked out for me. So I don't have a problem with that now.
I really enjoyed that, because I always played Pokemon like I was trying to get to the next area, and the only time I really wanted to spend in the grass was either hunting for something new, like hunting for a new Pokemon, or just trying to get to the next area, where you had to do those obligatory fights. So sitting, like, going back and being like, okay, now I'm going to walk in circles for a while, was always something I had to do. I don't know if...
When I was young, I always would avoid all trainer battles. I don't know why. I guess
it felt stressful back then.
It kind of did when I was a kid. So I'd avoid all trainer battles, and usually I'd end up under-leveled, and then I would do the little kid thing where I'd just bang my head against the wall over and over again until eventually I got through whatever it was. Even if I could only beat one Pokemon on somebody's team, I would just beat that Pokemon over and over again until I got the levels to move on, which I guess is grinding. But... I think around Diamond and Pearl, I realized that if you fight every single trainer that you can find in every area, you will be exactly on level curve in almost every Pokemon game.
That's probably what because I was always trying to get out of areas, I never searched for the extra trainers.
Yeah, if you fight every single one, up through, I think, Black and White 2... If you fight every single person you come across, and you look for extra trainers to fight, you will be on level curve. And that's not true anymore starting when they change the experience share, because it so changes the experience curve of everything.
Which is fine, I think. I like it.
It's an option, like and now I don't have a problem with it, because, like I said, you can use it to really fine-tune how much experience you're getting.
My biggest change with those games came during Sun and Moon. Where they started adding those people that you could only fight if you fought everyone else in the area.
Did they?
Yeah.
I don't remember any of that.
They would always wear... it's like a black hat, and they'd stand there and be like, you can only fight me if you fought everyone else here. And that lit a fire underneath me to get going. Like, I was just going crazy killing all of these Pokemon. I never did that before. I would always just try and get to the next area, but this got me wanting to go back. Also, the pretty landscapes in that really helped.
Sun and Moon did a lot of things right. I should probably get back into it. I just have so many other games to play.
I never want to replay a Pokemon game.
I haven't beat it
Except Silver. Yet. Silver is the only one I like replaying.
I do like replaying the Gen 2 games periodically. Play Anniversary Crystal, which is a ROM hack made by the Twitch Plays Pokemon team. It combines the first and second gen into one game, but it mixes them.
Oh, you were telling... Yeah,
that's a good game. I would recommend that. That said, so I played Grimoire of the Rift.
Yeah.
My favorite Final Fantasy Tactics games, come at me, bro. And I'm really enjoying that, and I want to get back into it. Then, I did play another game.
Uh-huh.
So last week, we talked about the new Wolfenstein game, and how we were both kind of interested.
I saw you had hours on that.
Yes. And we were both talking about how we were kind of interested in this new one. Mm-hmm. Or at least I was interested in it.
I'm skeptical, but I'll give it a go.
Okay, so I saw, I think, to advertise their new one, yesterday, and maybe today, mm-hmm. They put the old ones on sale, and they were $10. So I picked up the New Order, mm-hmm. which is the first one that came out, but then the sequel was a prequel.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I've been playing the New Order. Okay, here's the deal with that game.
Yeah.
The story
mm-hmm.
is 90% amazing. 10% of that is a specific character who I will not spoil, who I hate, and I think was added in a later part of the dev cycle to basically be like the fuckboy for all of their like bad stuff, because basically any plot hole or any like inconsistency I've seen in the writing mm-hmm. or any issue I've had with the story so far has been connected to this specific character. So I'm convinced that they are like some kind of shit in the soup.
I bet that was added real early on in the story, to be entirely honest.
Really?
I bet some writer had the great idea, like, he's always going to be there. It's always going to be this guy. And they thought it would be a great idea, and then it actually played out, and they're like, this sucks.
It does. Okay, so I hate that character. I won't spoil who they are. If you just kind of, like, keep in mind that one of the characters appears to have no character in and of themselves and rapidly changes roles within the story frequently. That character. Hate him. Hate them. So, aside from that, mm-hmm. story's really cool so far. Mm-hmm. Every other character is really well written. There's one guy I'm convinced is alternate history Jimi Hendrix, because it's a guitar player. It's a black guitar player with an afro whose face I have not seen yet. So I'm like, that's Jimi Hendrix, isn't it? But like the whole like alternate history where the Nazis win is really interesting. I can tell that they went out of their way to be like, okay, Wolfenstein has always been this really over-the-top, crazy, like, mecha Hitler game. Mm-hmm. So how do we, like, kind of close the gap between that and something that's fairly realistic? And I just got to the point in the game where they explain how all that technology came to be. Mm-hmm. And it's not the best explanation, but I'm happy with it.
That's good.
It's hard
to do those right.
It is. But I'm, like, fairly happy with how they've explained it. That said, a lot of the characters are really tropey.
Yeah.
They're just kind of well written anyway.
That's good.
There's literally a Jewish character in there who's like, Oy vey shim sham. And you're like, oh god, please no.
Are they playing on the tropes? Because it seemed like there was a bit of a sillier feeling.
It's weird, because there's these silly aspects, but they kind of just, like, gloss over them.
Weird.
It's like, no, this world is just, like, kind of inherently silly, and everyone takes it seriously. That said, gunplay, mostly fine. Mm-hmm. Area design, god fucking awful. Boss design, holy shit. I've never hated any boss design in a game more. The bosses are really boring and bullet spongy.
That's a bummer.
So far, I've fought 3 or 4 different bosses. It's the exact same boss every time. They have 2 moves. Mm-hmm.
Do they tend to be mecha or people?
Mecha.
Okay. That's at least something. But there's, like, a lot of things you can do with mecha to get rid of that. Weak spots, different moves.
There appears to be a weak spot, but normally when I hit it, it, like, explodes after my first hit, and then you can't use it anymore.
Is it like the tree from Dark Souls where there's lots of them?
No, there's just one on its back, as far as I can tell.
That is infuriating.
Yeah, so the first time they gave me a boss battle, it was against 2 smaller mechs. So it's like supposed to be an introduction, and it's supposed to be like, here's how you fight these guys.
Yeah.
I threw they give you these grenades. Whenever you're about to fight one, they just drop them like candy everywhere beforehand that disable them temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I'd throw a grenade, I would empty clips of like all of my weapons into them, and then they'd get back up, and I'd throw another grenade, empty all of my weapons into them, throw the grenade, they'd get back up. I ran through all of the ammo on the map and had not killed one of the two.
That's got to be a trick to that, right?
They have these guns, which I tried to use at first,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the boss's attacks is they point their thing at you, and a bomb appears next to you.
Mm.
It doesn't travel, it appears next to you. That is an EMP and explosion.
Mm.
So, there's these guns, these like mounted guns all around the battlefield, that you can actually like rip off their stand and shoot with. But here's the deal. To get on the gun, there's like a second delay while you like do the animation of grabbing the gun, which is way too long, by the way. And there's also a second delay of getting off the gun.
Yeah.
So what'll happen is you go up to the gun, and as you start to grab it, they'll launch a bomb that'll appear right next to you. And then in the time it takes you to let go or pull it off the stand, the bomb will go off.
That's a bummer.
And the bomb disables the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Until you set it back on the stand. So what you have to do is you have to like get on the gun, hope that they don't shoot the bomb so you can get a couple shots off, and then immediately let go of the gun to get away from this explosion that is otherwise unavoidable, and you move slower when you pull the gun off. So if you pull the gun off, you'll just get hit by the explosion.
That sounds like it would be a really cool boss battle if they just fixed animation time.
If they just fixed the animation time, it would have been mostly fine.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, they move really slow, and if you're far enough away from them, they won't use their Gatling gun. They'll only use that bomb, which the cooldown timer on it is about the same amount of time it takes to get back within range of one after it's gone off. So what I found was, against the boss, I would grab the gun, I would shoot like 3 shots, back off the gun, and then have to run away, and I could either go back to that gun or go to another gun. Regardless of which I did, by the time I got there, their thing would be off cooldown, and they'd just nuke my gun again. And I couldn't use it. So I would, at this point I had burnt through all my ammo too. So it was literally, that was my only option.
Mm-hmm.
And they're so bullet spongy. Like later on I had glitched one, so that it was sort of behind a platform from me.
Right.
So it couldn't actually, when it would shoot the bomb, it would just like, I guess they have to have line of sight. Mm-hmm. So it would keep trying to shoot it and it would just land against the platform. So I was just unloading this gun into him. And I was literally just, like, holding down the mouse button and not moving for, like, 40, 60 seconds of just shooting this guy. With a Gatling cannon.
I've never understood why games think it's fun to restrict mobility. Like, I get there's different ways to play, but I always play a very mobile-heavy player. Like, I love Scout. I love a Demo Man. Just let me move around. That's where the skill is with the shooter, I feel like. Because otherwise, it's just pointing and clicking.
And you're fairly mobile otherwise. Like, the standard, like, gameplay, it's fine. Like, you can dual-wield guns, which I've never found the need to do. That is an issue I've had. The shotgun they give you is really effective, but if you're within shotgun range of somebody, you're probably playing wrong.
Oh. That's weird, because they were really harping on that with the new Wolfenstein.
Yeah, it seems like the vast majority of the time you want to be on the assault rifle if you have ammo for it, because the shotgun doesn't have enough range, which it's an automatic shotgun, so it feels great. If it was an option to use that and have it be good, that'd be great, but you can't really. You can have the assault rifle, which I find, because it's really accurate even at long ranges, and at short ranges it just blows people up, so... I've never found a reason to use another gun when I have another gun to use.
That sucks.
Yeah, so that's been an issue. Dual wielding's an option. Reloading is a pain in the dick when you have dual wielding on, and as a result...
I played that D&D character.
I find that most of the time... Also, you can't really aim when you're dual wielding, because you can't aim down sights. So... It's just so inefficient to dual wield that I find no reason to do it.
Dumb idea. Middle button does iron sights for both guns. So you're like...
You just kind of hold them really close against your eyes. You need to do it in VR so that one iron sight is one eye and one is the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a lot of issues with the gameplay to the point where, and the level design's absolute shit too.
Shit.
It's really bad about communicating information to you. At one point, I was doing these quests in like their kind of like hub area that you go to between the main missions, and there were just a fuck ton of icons in the top left-hand corner.
Weird.
And I found out towards the end of that area, those icons were indicating things for side missions, like things that you could collect and stuff. But the icons were like just ugly blobs. Weird. Like I could not tell what the icon was of. So as a result, they were literally just like these random tick marks in the top of my screen that I had no idea of what they represented, or like, and it's not like they point you to where you're going, so they were ultimately really superfluous. Also, a lot of times they'll just like lock you in a room and not explain that now is the time when we just rush you with enemies. So specifically, there was a mission where I'm like breaking into a place, and they tell me go to the control room. So I'm trying to find this control room, but I'm in this big area, and I'm just running around looking for the control room. And there's just people spawning constantly. So I'm killing them constantly, but I'm looking for this control room. And I can't find it. Finally, I kill everybody in the area, and then there's like 30 seconds of nothing, where I'm just like looking for this control room, and then something breaks down the door, and it's a boss fight.
Oh.
And I'm like, if I had known that this was like gonna be a bunch of enemies and then a boss fight,
you wouldn't have been looking for the control room.
I wouldn't have been looking for the control room the whole damn time, and I would have, like, found a good spot to, like, I would have played entirely differently, and it would have been way less frustrating.
Yeah.
But it had not communicated that to me. And to even find out that I was looking for the control room, I had to open the journal, your, like, quest log, because I had been told, get to this room, and I was like, okay, I'm in the room, what now?
Oh.
So I had to open the quest log, it's like, go to the control room. I'm like, okay, now I have to find the control room in this room. I hate the fucking level design and boss fights, and just a lot of shit in that game.
Are you gonna keep playing?
I am, because the story's amazing.
Is it worth the Let's Play thing? Like, if you just want to watch it, or is it worth playing?
I don't know. I wouldn't recommend playing it, honestly. If you could watch the story, that's probably way better.
You're just too invested now where you have to keep going.
And there's these, like, moments of brilliance. Like, I was in the hub last night. I was in kind of like that same hub area, that like central area they send you to, and it's just after you bring back all these refugees, and I was just kind of looking around like, hey, what's different this time? Are there any collectibles around? Blah blah blah. And I walk into this room, and there's guys sitting on the floor eating cans of beans, and he just looks up at you like really surprised and like kind of nervous, and then he's like, oh, and he goes back. And it was the most genuine, like, I was like, if that had happened in real life, the animations were, like, spot on for, like, this guy looking like you had caught him pilfering food.
That's cool.
And he's just sitting on the floor. And it's this little interaction that I was immediately like, this is so cool.
Well, I think they mocap for a lot of that.
I'm sure they did. But it was something so unexpected, because I walked in that room expecting there to be nothing, and I just saw this guy like, oh! With, like, these huge, wide eyes, like, look up at me from the floor. It's just such a silly, but, like, really human moment that I loved. And the story's good. There is a point very early on where the game basically tells you, this is a divergent afterwards, after they tell you that's a divergent point in the plot line. You've made a choice that's going to affect the rest of the game. And whenever you open the menu afterwards, it tells you the route you're in based on your decision.
I like that.
Which tells me there's 2 different major stories. I'm wondering if the story is even better in the other timeline.
I'm so skeptical about that, because it's always something
I have a feeling it's very minor.
Yeah.
There is at least one major aspect of the story which I know for a fact does change, because I've interacted with it already.
Okay.
That couldn't exist in the other timeline. So it definitely does affect the whole story, whether it affects it in a massive way or it just affects like specific interactions. I'm going to play through, but I have a feeling it seems like the story would be very different.
That's cool.
Because it's implied by one of the characters that, like, that decision you made was huge.
And it wasn't a false decision, it was definitely a real decision?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was told I made the wrong decision.
Ooh.
Like, straight up, one of the characters was like, you made the wrong decision. And I was like, no! So, I kind of want to finish it and go back and see what changes.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I'm playing on the normal difficulty. When I play through again, I'm going to play on easy.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have to play the game.
Just get through.
I just want to get through.
Why not Let's Play? Or watch a Let's Play?
Because I don't want to hear someone else talk over it.
Oh, okay.
I want to just experience the game, because the game is good enough to experience on its own, in my opinion.
That's understandable.
That said, it really hurts my enthusiasm for this next game, because unless there's a huge gameplay change, I know already going in that I'm going to hate the game, and I'm just going to play for the story, which makes me maybe not want to get it.
Yeah. Wait for it. Seems like a sale game.
Yeah.
Stamp it now. Wait for a sale.
Wait for a sale. Okay, what did you want to talk about? That was all I played.
Yeah. So I also played 2 games this, and I think I talked to you a little bit about the first one. I tried not to.
Okay.
But I did play some Dishonored.
Okay, yeah, you said you were going to play Dishonored.
I played Dishonored 2, and I played a lot of the first one, and I really enjoyed the first one, so it kills me to say I hate the second one.
What do you not like?
I think they screwed their own level design up. I think the levels are bigger. I think the levels have more stuff in them, but I think they are put way less well together. Also, the entirety of how the game is played is different. And I think a lot of that is because of the main character. What's her name?
Emily.
Emily.
So you played as Emily.
I played as Emily.
Do you know if playing as Corvo solves your issues?
It doesn't, because the levels aren't designed for it. So the way I normally played the first game is I tried Ghost. It wasn't full Ghost. I never actually successfully managed, but I always tried to stay out of sight as much as possible. And there was a lot of abilities for that. There was Blink, which got you really far away, and I could... A lot of the maps in Dishonored 1 were designed around having these large open upper areas, which is basically non-existent in most of the maps I've played. The closest you get are some of the inside the buildings.
Where are you?
I am currently only on the 4th mission.
You are in Jindosh's Manor.
Yes.
Jindosh's Manor is really weird about that. It reminds me of the Boyle Manor from Dishonored 1. But honestly, better designed as far as the level.
I like the Boyle Manor. I actually thought
the Boyle Manor is good, but the Jindosh Manor is really well designed. Have you seen that?
It's just
all the shit you can do in that.
It just plays differently. In a
it does
way
play
that
differently.
Maybe it's because I had these expectations coming from the first game that I was going to play Dishonored 2, but it feels more like I'm playing super powered Far Cry. Everything seems to get me into a fight. And
I would disagree. I think the vast majority of the time, and I played as Emily.
Yeah.
I could avoid fights. There was one that I couldn't avoid my first time through, despite trying really hard, and ended up finding out later that I could have, because there was a spot I hadn't found. There was a little hidey hole.
I've noticed that there's a lot of more secret areas.
Yeah.
And that tend to be really hidden. And that tends to be the only option. I'm just going to straight up say, there's a mission where you have to try and get into Jindosh's Manor.
Yes.
And you can either do that by closing off one of the gates.
Right.
And then you just walk up there.
Right.
Which is kind of risky because there's a lot of people there.
Right.
Or there's the safe option where you go entirely around and walk through a back alley where there's gangs back there.
There is a third option.
There is?
There is. There is a...
I know you can also climb on top of the building.
There's also a rail car that you can activate through a side mission. There's a whole side mission where you activate this rail car and get a code for it, and then you just pull the lever and you literally coast up into his front yard.
Yeah. That's how you get to the rail car. Oh, yeah, I guess you can also just walk through the city, but that seemed like a bad idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I took the rail car.
Okay.
And I had to get both the codes for it.
Yeah.
And I find myself really stressed out by this game. Because it's one of those games where tension is always coming.
Tension, yeah.
And I never felt competent with my abilities like I did with Corvo.
See, everything you're saying makes me think that you would like the game. Have you tried the game as Corvo?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got better at using Corvo, but the game is straight up not built for him.
It's kind of built for Emily.
They
really expect you to play as Emily.
I don't know why they added him, other than people wanted to play him since the last game.
People wanted to play him. I think that was most of the thought that went into that.
It's
very obviously, like, thematically, it is Emily's game.
Yeah.
If you, in Dishonored 1, they've now canonized the pacifist route.
Yeah.
And I see Dishonored as the pacifist route because it's the story of Corvo. It's the story of this guy who is making an effort to improve the world.
Yeah.
And as a result, it doesn't make a lot of sense for him to be this violent dickbag.
Yeah.
So his, like, redemption story is told not just through the story, but through the environments and through the characters you meet. And so him being a pacifist makes sense.
Yeah.
Then you get to Emily's story, and to me, the game seems to imply that Emily's canon ending is going to be violent.
Okay.
I think that's what they're going for, is that Emily is supposed to be vindictive, and Emily is supposed to be on this path of revenge.
The big problem with that is the ending. I've gotten some things, not spoiled for me, but I want to look into it. It's disappointing if you go violently. Like, everyone kind of looks at you weird, and, like, you can save everyone and still get the violent ending, and it's got, like, a somber overtones to it, which is not
the somber overtone does not get better in the positive ending. I'll tell you, because there's specifically a mission where I spent probably an extra 2 hours in it trying to figure out how to save this character.
Yeah.
And to the best of my knowledge, you cannot save him. From the very bit, like, once you find out what his deal is, he's already gone. And when it even, like, goes back over it in the epilogue, like, that his life just was terrible after that. Like, it never got better. And I'm like, that's kind of interesting. But I see that. I see what you mean in terms of it could be a little disappointing.
Yeah. I just... And then there's a couple of weird things that really bother me about its pacing. So, I'm constantly stressed out playing it, which is fine. That's what I think they want, at least a little bit, because you're trying to get around, to be sneaky. You don't want anyone to see you.
Yeah.
Which is... I enjoy that. I played Styx. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And then, like, just random books. Like, why stop that and, like, make you look at a book?
I mean, the books were in the first one.
Yeah, I don't think it was a good design decision. I get that it adds something to the world, but when you're, like, totally engulfed in this mission, like, the sense of immersion with this game is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm in the game purely just from just how it makes me feel. And then book, which I want to read because I want to know more about the world. I don't want to read it right now, and I get that I can read it later, but you're shoving this in my face, like, immediately. Like, that also kind of breaks my immersion. Why is Emily reading this book right now? Maybe she just picked it up, and if there's a little icon somewhere, like, a new book is available.
That is one issue. Going back to the game I played, Wolfenstein. There's a point where one of the characters, like, calls you on your comm, and is like, my cousin died and left this diary. I'm gonna, like, wire it to you so you can read it if you want. And over the rest of the mission, you just periodically get these things that's like, you got part 1 of the diary. You got part 2 of the diary. That just appear as you complete, like, mission requirements.
That's weird.
Where it's just like, we literally are giving you expo dump that we couldn't figure out how to work in the story. Terrible. The book way is at least better, I think, than that. If not by much. Go back to what you were saying.
When they were selling Dishonored 2, they kept talking about how they had thought about the world, how it was before this, and, like, all of the years leading. It was obviously bullshit. It was like, we thought so much about it, and then it ended up just being like, here's the store that should be here, and also a book that's inside of it. Yeah. I mean, like, there are games that do it. I don't think it did. I think that they made a couple of books and then they called that Thinking 40 Years Back about the city. But that was such... The story is also really disappointing in Dishonored 2. I get that it's her story, and they're going forward with just her story, but it feels like it's just her story. And for such a directed experience.
Are you aware that Karnaka is where Corvo was born?
Yes.
I don't, because later on, because I played through as Emily, and then I replayed through as Corvo. Later on, there is a part where I was playing as Corvo, and I found Corvo's childhood home. And there's like a bunch of... There's like a mini expo dump that actually comes out of Corvo at that point, where he like has a moment.
Yeah, that's cool.
That is specific to Corvo's story. So I think there's thought that went into it, and I think the way that Corvo is meant to be a part of that world is that it's his history, but it's Emily experiencing his history.
I really wanted to love this game. Because I love the first one. I thought the first one is super fun. Oh, and mana management. I just hate... You told me a little bit about just spam mana potions.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like that's the solution. I feel like maybe just regenning your mana would have been the solution there.
Yeah.
It was needlessly complicated. It's not complicated. You get the idea of it fast, where if you use your mana, part of it permanently disappears.
Depending on the spell you use.
Yeah, and if you use another spell while you're still regaining, all the stuff you hasn't regained disappears. But it adds micromanagement to constantly having to deal with that, which I just found not fun. I also felt like I shouldn't use my powers.
I think you just have to get over that. Yeah. The game is so much better once you just don't focus on that, which is probably a design flaw then.
Yeah.
If there's like a major mechanic that you need to not think about in order to make the game fun, maybe it shouldn't be there. It
would be more fun, just like hands down without that.
Yeah. If it just took your mana.
Just like say... Yeah.
If it was literally just like whenever you use a skill that isn't blink or dark vision, we're just gonna take some of your mana.
But why even do that? Why not just let it regen? It's okay to give your players power. It's why you're creating a power fantasy in this world.
Yeah, it's definitely a power fantasy.
It's just let them have fun. You don't always have to be restricting. If you're dealing with like combat between two people, like actual people, PvP, I get it. You need to balance these things. But if you're doing PvE, just let people have fun.
Yeah.
The hard mode, maybe have it be a hard mode option.
I wonder...
I checked all the custom options, and it's not even fixable. Because I tried... I might come back to it with a trainer. Because I'm fully okay with easy modes. I'm okay with cheating. I get it. If you're not having fun with a game, make a way to have fun with the game. So that might be the only way I enjoy Dishonored 2. Which sucks. But I put it down, and I don't plan to come back to it anytime soon. Because it wasn't fun to me. And I really wanted it to be. So, from there, I really wanted to play something casual that I was acquainted with. So, I played a little bit of Minecraft. And I'm not really going to talk about that because I did the same thing I always did. I played a new mod pack. I played all the mods, which isn't all the mods, which I'm a little disappointed with.
Dude, if you tried to load all the mods into Minecraft, 1, would not work. 2, if you could somehow jury rig all the mods to function together,
be too much stuff.
It would crash the game, and also the game would look like nonsense. It would just be like, you would spawn in and there'd just be colors and shapes everywhere, and you'd be like, what the fuck, and you'd turn it off.
But the real big game that I started playing, because it was a classic that I played previous games in the series of, and I never really got too far into them. I started playing Persona 4.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god, I love this game. And it's really a hard game to talk about because it's story-based.
It's story-based. You can't, be like, and then, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh no, that's a spoiler.
It's close to a visual novel.
Yeah.
I'm using that properly this
time. You are using that properly this time.
And I've never enjoyed a visual novel before.
Yeah.
So it was...
Probably because you've never played any well-written ones. And now you've played Persona 4, which is a well-written one.
Oh, it's so good. It's... You haven't seen Twin Peaks, right?
I have not seen Twin Peaks.
Well,
Do you get
hands
Twin
down,
Peaks vibes?
there is definitely inspiration in Persona 4. I wouldn't say so much about Persona 3, which I've played some of, but there is definitely inspiration from that there. It feels almost like you're playing as one of the high schoolers in Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Which, yeah,
you get vibes. Me. Yeah.
Oh, it's great. I have a few gripes.
I tried to play 3, and 3's a little old for me. It didn't age well. I might try to play 4.
There's definitely the age there. I see it, but it didn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have problems with how they do the scheduling, but nothing that's ruining my fun. Okay. Because you play one day for every day for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not at the end of it, so I don't know if it's more than less than a year, but they keep telling you a year.
I'm pretty sure. Do you have Are you playing Golden?
No, I'm playing PS2.
Okay. So Persona 4 Golden adds an extra 6 months. Was my understanding. It's like
up
3 or something.
Okay.
It adds extra months to the game. And does like,
oh no!
Yeah.
Oh.
I think that one is the Vita though, so you probably
couldn't have played it.
Couldn't have played it.
Yeah. I handy old PS2.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I'm normally the kind of person who doesn't like sitting down and playing a game for a long amount of time.
But you have
to. Persona forces you. You play through an entire day, and you usually can save at the beginning and or in the middle. Yeah. Occasionally. But I've played about 15 hours over the last 2 days.
Which is about 15 days. So you're halfway through your first month.
I'm through my first month.
You're through your first month. Okay. Yeah, because the first couple days are probably really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, those are actually some of the longer ones.
Oh.
Because they're tutorialing and all the cutscenes are
story dump. I think somebody compiled it and there's 15 hours of cutscenes.
I'm totally okay with that because the cutscenes are done so well.
Yeah.
There are cutscenes where it's in-game, where it's the 3D models and they're talking, but there's fully animated cutscenes.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels like you're watching a TV show.
Yeah.
Oh!
Are you playing... Well, I guess you're playing English voices then.
I am.
Okay.
And I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I heard that the English voice acting is good in that.
I can't tell super much the problem in English voice acting. My judging of English voice acting is, does it hurt my ears? And do the characters kind of fit where they should? And it hits both those criteria.
For the most part, it's probably because when you watch anime, you only watch good anime. Because only good ones, for the most part, get dubs.
Okay.
And then when bad ones get dubs, the ones you're probably not watching, the niche ones, those ones you're like, oh god, you sound like a pencil sharpener had a baby with a Furby, and it's a problem.
You haven't seen Ghost Stories English, right?
No.
Watch it. You can only watch the English version.
Okay.
Because it was a serious anime in Japan, and they just told the voice actors in America to just do whatever.
Yeah.
And there's one character that sounds exactly like what you've described.
Yeah.
On purpose.
Oh, good.
I don't know if they ever say words. It's usually just...
Oh, good. Yep, that's exactly what I described, actually.
But I'm not going to stop playing Persona. I'm so in love with this game. I really want
There's
a PS4 just to play. I don't care.
It's bad to watch.
I don't want to watch it for an anime.
Yeah.
There are some problems where some of the decisions feel like they don't change anything. And there's also a problem that I wish I hadn't used the internet for. Because there are points where you'll have to answer a question in school and you get bonuses. Or you'll have to talk to people, and depending on what you say to them, they change their emotions towards you. And I really don't want to get the bad ending. I don't want to waste my time or say the wrong thing. So I look it up sometimes, and I kind of wish I hadn't, because I'm going to get perfect. But it's hard when I have the option to look up what I should say to someone.
Well, the problem, too, specifically with the school questions, is those are Japanese school questions. And a lot of times you'll get a question and you'll be like, what the fuck is that even?
As far as I am, there's been a couple where I've had to look them up, but they localize them pretty well.
Have they?
Yeah. At least in 4.
I know that 5, it's a really big issue.
Is
People
it?
have been complaining about how, like, they'll ask a question and they'll be like, "Excuse me, what were those words?" They're so Japanese that you're just like, you either have to be super into anime and like into Japanese culture to even get them.
That's a bummer.
Then you're just like given a list, and it may as well be like, "What is your favorite number? 1, 2, or 3?" There is only one right answer.
I feel like Persona 4 is the most accessible Persona of all of them. I'm going to say the most accessible Shin Megami Tensei game. And I've played a lot of them. They're all awful to get into.
I mean...
And that's saying a lot.
It's not even a Shin Megami Tensei game anymore.
Persona... Nah.
They're like... They have now definitely completely divested the series of each other. Even though originally, they were
It was
connected.
always a spin-off. Like, it was not connected universe-wise. I like some of the other Shin Megami Tensei games. The MMO is my favorite MMO that ever existed. So good. That's been my games.
Yeah, I haven't played... I've been playing Skyrim again, but like your whole Minecraft deal, it's like, let's describe Skyrim to every one of the 3 people who've never played or heard about Skyrim.
I'm going to show you a video later.
Okay.
Door Monster. I'm going to finally get you to watch a Door Monster video.
Yeah.
So, you want to end that here?
We're through games we wanted to talk about. Oh, let's do one more thing.
Yeah.
What was your favorite game that was shown at E3 this year?
Ooh, I already know what I'm going to say, and it sucks because I know I'm getting hyped. For a game that everyone else is really skeptical about right now. Everyone's saying it's in its Destiny stages, or not Destiny, everyone's just saying it's in its early stages where it can't be trusted, and they're just saying everything's in it. I'm super hyped about Anthem. I really want to see it to its end.
Yeah. Let me look at the list of things that we looked at last week for what I want to... Oh, Middle-earth Shadow of War.
Oh yeah, you're so into that. I'm gonna give that a go this week. That's gonna be the game. And I'm gonna try and go for RimWorld again, because you wanted me to talk about that. I was so disappointed by Dishonored that it, like, killed my gaming schedule.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I would suggest RimWorld. Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor took me a couple tries to get into, because the beginning of that game is slow, and you have to get through, like, half the story before you even unlock the Nemesis system. You're like, seriously, you could probably blitz it and get the Nemesis system in like 5 hours.
Yeah.
But if you just play the game, you're like 20 hours in, and you get there. And you're just like, fuck. So I blitzed it, and I got it in like 4, I think. The second time I tried, because the first time I went through, I was like, there's no way it's that deep into the story. I'll just play the game normally. And I got like 5 hours in, and I was like, I didn't even think I'm close to getting the Nemesis system started up. So I quit that time and started up again later, and I got it in like 4 hours. And that's where the game starts to take off.
So it's going to be a couple weeks before I get there, because you know the way I play games.
Yeah, you're going to like pick it up and then drop it, and then pick it up and then drop it.
Yeah.
It takes a while to get into, but once you have that going, and specifically, there's a point in that game where you leave the like dark shitty part of Mordor, and it's like green and nice.
You know that's my thing.
Yeah, but that is like after you like get way deep in the main story. It's like 10 hours, 12 hours into the main story.
That's a bummer.
It's a really huge bummer because it's a little smaller, which is kind of a bummer too because I liked it more.
Well, the new one looks very green.
The new one,
I think that's what they're going for.
The new one, I think, is set in that area, which I think you're still in Mordor. I think you're just like on the coast.
Huh.
They seem to imply that you're still in Mordor.
The beaches of Mordor.
Yeah, I don't know the lore well enough to say, like, it definitely is or is not in Mordor. The sense I got from the game is they're like, you're still in Mordor.
Okay.
Because there's still orcs everywhere, and it's prior to the War of the Ring, which means that there wouldn't be orcs just, like, out and about.
Okay.
So, regardless, I think you're gonna drop that game a couple times. I think you're going to like it if you ever get to the Nemesis system. And I hope that's something they fix in the second game, that they're like, up front, here is the Nemesis system. Go have fun.
Yeah.
Because that's what that game needs. So that was my game of the show was Middle Earth: Shadow of War.
And that one has more of a likely chance to be good.
Yeah.
And what you expect.
And what was your favorite show of the show?
Microsoft. Hands down.
Microsoft.
It was
Agreed.
just games. I wish all the conferences were just showing games after games. Yeah. I don't care about Let's Players. I don't care about Twitch. I mean, I get it. I want to watch them in their own settings.
But you don't want to watch them at the E3 conference.
No, I'm watching E3 specifically for games.
Yes, agreed.
And not to watch Bethesda pull their own fucking dicks.
Yeah, true. So, those are we both like the Microsoft conference. Those are our games of the show. And I think we're done.
Yeah, I'm done.
Cool. Yeah, Bye. I'm done.
I'm not talking to you ever again.
Never again. No show next week. We're never talking again.
Lies. He's lying.
No, next week. Bye.
Bye.